Happy Tuesday. Time for Tidbit Tuesdays. So I know I've talked about this in the past, but I've been getting a lot of calls lately about this, so I want to talk about it again. And it's when you get a big bill from the ER, the hospital, or even a huge lab bill. I am all about saving money and not overpaying for services. And those three services plus imaging are one of the worst for upcharging and overcharging. So I feel not bad at all for wanting to pay less because that pricing is not real. So when you get a bill, if you've gone in, there's a lot of ways you can handle it. So let's say you go in, you've given them your insurance, everything now is applied to deductible, so insurance didn't pay anything and you're getting this huge bill. Well, when that happens, what you want to do is you want to wait till that bill goes to collections. They cannot, in the state of Texas, there's a 12-month rule that they cannot report you to the credit bureau on your credit report for 12 months from when it goes to collections. So that means it won't affect your credit when it goes to collections. And I will tell you, I do this every time with lab bills because the labs are horrendous, and on my husband's lab bills, certain things aren't covered by his plan, and I always wait. I do this every single time. You'd think they'd catch on, but they do this every single time. So the lab bill comes again, past due. I let it sit on my desk. Then I get a collection letter. Yay. Then I get a second collection letter. Yay. Usually by the third collection letter, it will say on the statement, we are offering you a one-time 50% discount. That's when I pay the lab bill. Now, I still don't want to pay the 50% because it's way more than what I know they bill doctor's offices for labs, but it's better than paying the full price. This can work too for ER and hospital charges. I will tell you, if you try to negotiate with the hospital or ER, the ER is usually associated with the hospital, they'll just tell you, we'll set up a payment plan. You don't want to do that. They're not willing to negotiate. There's even instances where I had a young college student that had to have a necessary surgery and called the hospital, and instead of telling him he could apply for financial assistance because he basically worked part-time, he was in school full-time, he didn't have much of an income, they set him up on a $300 a month payment plan. When his mom told me, I said, tell him to call and cancel that and apply for financial assistance. Every hospital has that. If your income is low enough, you're going to get financial assistance and get a lot of that wiped off. But you never want to set up a payment plan with the hospital because you'll just be, and then they'll tell you have to pay it like within 12 months or 24 months, a ridiculous amount of time. That's why the payments are so high. Let it go to collections. And then when it goes to collections, wait until at least the second bill and then call collections and say, hey, got this bill. What will you accept as payment in full? And it's really important to say that, and it's really important to make sure that happens. I've had people go, what will you take? And, they pay something and it didn't wipe out the rest of the debt. So that's really important that you get that in writing somehow, that it's paid in full if they reduce it. See what they'll do. And if they don't, say, well, we'll set up a payment plan. No, thank you. Hang up. Wait till next month. And you can decide to take this as long as you want. I've never gone past the first collection letter just to see what would happen because I just want to get it off my desk. And these have not been large bills. The lab bills are a couple $100, so I pay half that. So that's not too terrible. But when you're dealing with ER hospital bills, those can be very expensive. But there are ways to get that reduced. I have lots of success stories. Every facility is different. I'll tell you, in the Austin area, St. David's is the best to work with because if you walked into St. David's and told them you're a cash patient, it's a 91% discount. And then you can still let that bill go to collections when you when you get the bill, and then you can still negotiate with them after the fact. I had a gentleman was in the hospital 6 weeks, St. David's, no insurance, and his bill was over $300,000. Gave him some tips. He got that reduced, and his final payment on the $300,000, his only payment on the $300,000 bill was $950. Crazy. So there's ways to do that. If people will start doing that and stop paying these exorbitant fees, my hope is that they will stop charging ridiculous amount for services. But there's a reason that they do that. Something called the Uncompensated Care Act. It's been around for a while. And what that means is if a hospital accepts Medicare or Medicaid, which most of them do because they're hospitals, they're entitled to any amount they write off to turn that into the federal government, and they get reimbursed a good portion of that. So they're not out any money, though it's our tax dollars, which I'm not thrilled about because, again, the fees are stupid high and not real pricing. But you're not paying that out of your pocket immediately. So that's one way to help reduce your out-of-pocket costs, which is what I'm all about. Sometimes it just actually doesn't make sense to use your insurance. Sometimes your prescriptions are cheaper using GoodRx than using your drug plan. Do what makes the most sense for you. You know, the caveat is, of course, if you're trying to meet a deductible, if you pay cash for something, that's not going to count towards your deductible. But if you're not going to meet your deductible or never meet your deductible, then save money and pay a fair amount for your services, but don't overpay. Until next week, peace out.